Hey guys, I think we're good to get started. Thank you again. Thank you guys for joining us in the afternoon session for the knowledge session. Today we are going to pick up again the topic which encompasses everyone, whether you are into products, you are into technologies, or you are into compliance. We touch upon the project management here and there in our life, right? And that's where that session is going to focus that what it takes to manage high impact transformation programs in BFSI. And primarily the discussion will focus on the BFSI, right? So that's where that we are going to deep dive into the different aspects of the program management to make it success. So before that, quick introduction from my side. Many of you may be knowing us, but again, for the others who have not attended previous webinars. So myself, Shashank Shekhar. So I drive the consulting part of the Digital Fifth, work with the consulting team. I've worked with L&D Infotech, Wipro, primarily again into more in the technology related technologies or cyber security or governance related assignments. Then I moved on to join DCB Bank, where the primarily I was responsible to drive that governance, digital banking and that infrastructure. And that's where that I've been part of the many of the transformation program, be it on the revamp of the omni channels like mobile banking, interbanking, core banking migrations, or separate data center migrations. So I've seen the complexity of those projects on myself. And here again, we work lots with the customer in driving their different transformation initiatives as a PMO. So we'll get started. The quick introduction from our side, the Digital Fifth is a fintech and digital consulting advisory firm. We started in 2017 and we are into 8th year. We work purely into the digital space, only in the BFSI segment. We also organize Bharat Fintech Summit. Many of you would have attended. This is in the Feb event, which primarily focus again on the content side, which is transforming in the BFSI industry. Samir is the founder and CEO, and Srikanth is our other co-founder, and we have senior colleagues like Vikrant and Deepak. Let's just skip. This is just a snapshot of the customer, and many of the customers, especially on the banks or the NBFC side, we have been part of the driving their areas of the initiate transformation programs. Uh, just value propositions. Our strength lies in our the thought leadership, the knowledge of experience in the implementation of the various programs, be it on the digital transformation, open banking. We have been involved into the various of the transformation leadership and management training program at the banks. We do lots of the trainings at the banks or the NBFCs level. We are primarily practitioners. We are not a consultant by nature, right? We are practitioner because we have done those work, we have done those programs, and that's where that when we work with the customers, we know what it takes to make that digital transformation program live, be it on the CBS core banking migration, or be it on the LOS implementation, or be it on the API banking implementation, or any of the transformation programs. So that's where the practitioner approach, and we bring that knowledge around the digital, the product, and the technology. And that's where primarily we focus of our in this session, that why the knowledge of these components, be it on the product or the business or the technologies, is critical to having a successful programs, right? We work very closely with our customers, and we come with a large network connect with CEOs across the BFSI industry, also but working very closely with the founders and co-founders of the various fintech and startups. Core services, if you look at it, we are into consulting services, partnership, and the corporate training. We do lots of the trainings for the banks and BFCs, topics ranging from the digital banking, digital lending, open banking, embedded finance, or cyber security, or digital data protection bill. Any of the things, if you're the senior management or the leadership team or the middle management, that if you're looking for the training, we can do that. On the consulting, if you try to break down into that, we work into like digital finance, be it on the building the digital strategy or technology strategy, or if you're looking into the benchmarking, redesign of the journeys, process engineering, those all aspects will fall into the digital finance strategy. Embedded finance and open banking, if in any non-financial institution trying to get into the financial services, we help into the building the financial services strategy and also help into the implementations. We do a lot more work on the product management, right from designing of the product, building of the product documents, SOPs, writing the BRDs for the implementation to make that platform go live for that particular product. So end-to-end the product management will do that, including the Figma design for the journeys. That's primarily our strength lies. Program management, already spoken. We do lots of work on the risk and compliance, be it on the getting you compliance with the master direction from the RBI's, on any of the be the digital lending guidelines, or say, for example, outsourcing of technology services, IT services. Investor and ecosystem intelligence, be it on writing the reports or helping them to do the technology due diligence or assessment before any kind of the investment or acquisition. That's the way to do that. So with that, we'll just take a pause and then we'll move on straight to the topic. And guys, we'll take a pause in between for anybody. If you have any questions, you can put it on the Q&A sections or in the chat, and we'll pick up the questions so as we go. So look at that, what it takes to the cracking the code that to manage those high impact transformation programs, right? Most of the transfer, and we're not talking about the small programs like, for example, making any configuration changes or the feature addition in the mobile banking or internet banking or any side of this thing. We're really talking about the like launching a new product, implementation of the core banking systems, or say, for example, implementation of loan origination system or the cloud modernization programs kind of things. So we'll touch upon that. What are the education hurdles in that BFSI program planning? What are the challenges that you will have from the regulatory and operational? We'll touch upon that outcomes, why it's critical to have a knowledge of product, business, and technologies to have a strong, and I'm not talking about the fluency part of it, but having a good knowledge and decent knowledge to make a program successful. And that's where the domain awareness of the program management, that is still skill in itself. So if you look at the BFSI, if in the last 10 years has been massive transformations, right? And driven through the digital and technologies innovation that has happened, right? Lots of the emerging technology challenges, ecosystem has evolved in terms of the APIs availability, be it on the from the India stack or the account aggregator, or say, for example, NPCI. That has been there. Yeah, somebody's raised a hand. I'm not sure if am I audible? Sakshi, I hope I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So, Rajiv, we'll come back and we'll pick up the questions as we proceed forward in case if you have any questions. So we'll do that. So digital transformation is going through BFSI is going through a complete transformations, and it's continued to be there. It's not a one-step journeys that most of the banks continue to transform. Regulatory innovation evolution continue to take place. New guidelines come, new dimensions comes, and that's where that you create or you launch some of the strategic initiatives which are high impact, right? Some of this, for example, I need not the list which is compasses that entire 360-degree of the digital transformation. Either you could be doing the mobile banking transformation, relaunching that entire app, or you may be migrating from the core banking or upgrading the core banking, right? Or it could be Gen AI related initiative, analytics that you might be embedding into your journeys, revamping your entire the data warehouse or the data analytics stack, cloud that we may be driving new products. Maybe you're launching the credit card or any other new products, working very closely with the fintech, doing the fintech partnership to launch any services. That's also is a good transformation programs, right? So why that's it's a complex, right? If you look at it, all these programs, if you try to look at it, why the complexity comes into that pictures, right? I've already spoken, like you may have the district strategy, you may have the study partnership, but these programs are definitely a multidisciplinary, right? Any product or any program you pick it up, not all, but at least most of them will involve interacting with the product, interacting with the business, interacting with compliance, security, risk teams. So it's all like multidisciplinary, and you maybe need to get a requirements from all the different stakeholders, right? Definitely, since these are the digital initiatives you have picked up to provide you an edge or to serve your customer better or launch your products to the market to maximize your growth opportunities or revenue opportunities. So this has got the time sensitivity. So you can't have an kind of situation that you plan for core banking migration for any year, and it goes on for the 1.5 years and the 2 years. You start losing those advantages. It's a loss of those opportunities. So it has the time sensitivity nature, right? Definitely, most of the transformer programs involve the customer engagement, right? It's gonna impact that whole of your customer engagement. Definitely, it's required a very steady business expansion, management oversight, because now these days, in fact, regulatory supervision and management oversight on these programs are getting very high, right? Most of these programs, in fact, regulator also want that board has a level of visibility that how these programs are moving, right? Because ultimately they want to measure that what kind of the impact that its programs once it go live is having on the business, right? So that's where the management oversight and the regulator also try to look into much details that how you are managing your programs. So So that's why it makes more complex to have a very stringent program management so that you're able to achieve those objectives very well, right? So, so as we talk about that, why this project required multiple dimensions of fluency, like definitely most of these digital transformation programs involves a technology, right? It's woven around technologies. We are only talking about the tech driven or the digital driven projects. We are not talking about that branch opening or branch expansion, right? So most of the project will have the information technology. It will have an impact on the business and revenue opportunity, and lots of the reporting and auditing is required to those programs, right? So when you are launching these programs, running these programs as a program manager or a stakeholder who is responsible for these projects, your job not only limited to that managing the trackers, so you will have the hundreds of activities, different stakeholders may have the different set of the activities and you're tracking, right? You're doing in a daily huddles or you're doing the multiple meetings to make sure that everybody is an update and creating a very good fancy dashboard on the where the status. These are critical, right? You need to be there having a very strong tracker. You need to make everybody sit together to discuss any issues are there or the project progress. And you need to have the dashboard for the management to give a good visibility that where do you stand, be it on terms of your scope, be it on your terms of the timelines or the quality, right? But it's not limited to that, right? You can't just run with this thing and run these large transformation programs. So it has got the dimension of product and business, and we'll try to go a lot more deeper into that. Like definitely it may be touching some of the tech stacks. Either it could be you're doing the LOS migration, then LOS gets involved into that. And when it's not only LOS, but also lots of the APIs that you may be required and do the integrations to make that any kind of the journeys go live, right? Then also you will require to do that LMS integration. So tech aspects is critical. And definitely today's, if you look at every dimension of the banking, especially banking or insurance, or say, for example, in the wealth side of it, lots of the regulatory guidelines are there, be it on the security, be it on the outsourcing, be it on the digital lending and all these things. So when you're running these programs, definitely you need to be very careful at what are the different regulatory aspects that you need to be careful about it, right? So that's why these factors need to be there to make your that quick and real-time decisions as a part of your programs. Now let's try to get the little deeper into this triad of these capabilities for a BFSI program management. Definitely, you need to have the business and product acumen. You may not be expert on that your product. You may not be expert on or you may not be running the business, right? But definitely having a good understanding of the BSI products. And we'll try to get a little deeper into that. Definitely, digital and technology fluency is required, right? At least the basic. You may not be able to set up the technologies, write the code or do the integrations, right? Or write the APIs. You may not require to do that, right? But at least a good understanding of the digital technology is required. And last not the least, but anyway, we are talking about the program management. So you need to have a good understanding, good skills around the program management. And let's touch upon each one of the things a little more in details, right? Why it matters, I'll just give you an example. Let's say, for example, you're doing an LOS implementation. Now, LOS implementations, and you may have the, say, for example, home loan that you're trying to digitize by the implementation of LOS. Now, you will need to have the decent understanding of the home loan process, because when LOS, the BRDs are getting written, now definitely there will be a business guy, the product guys, who will be writing, but every individual will write their own requirements. Because let's take the case of the home loan. You will have that product team who will be primarily defining the product features, what are the critical elements. Then you will have the credit underwriting team, which will be primarily responsible for what documents need to be collected, how the BRE need to be written, how the CAM preparation will happen. Then there will be a technical guy who's defined the flow for the technical, the valuation part of the property. Then you will have the legal guy who will primarily take care of the title search for the property. Then there will be a risk containment unit. Then you will have the disbursement team. So there are multiple teams, and everybody will try to put up the requirements in silos. As a program manager, then it becomes very critical that you need to have that holistic view that every aspect has been put together in collective collaborative manner, so that each requirement doesn't create a challenge for that others during the implementation, and all the requirements can work very cohesively, right? So that's where it becomes very critical. You may not need to be a good expert on to write the BREs for the home loan or make a judgment on how the technical process will work or the legal process will work, but it may not necessary, right? But at least having a good flow say for example, technical, when you are building the LOS, does the technical workflow should be out of the system or should be in the systems? That's, you will be able to judge and you will be able to design it much better, right? So some of the things what you require definitely are the product knowledge, and if you are a program manager and responsible for the multidisciplinary kind of the program management, then definitely across the all the disciplinary, like be it on the lending, payments, insurance, you need to have the understanding, right? Or you are a specific primarily program management for one particular discipline, then you need to have a decent understanding of that. Or say like the cards, if you are launching on the credit card, and first time, let's say for example, bank is trying to launch a credit card, you will lots of the different dimensions will come up. You may not have the previous experience to help you out to take on the certain of the challenges that may come into the credit card, be it on the designing the terms, MITC, or designing the journeys, in case you are trying to work with a partner for the customer acquisition, that whole of the journey. So that's where the product knowledge helps you to design and manage the program better. And more critically, it helps you to visualize the things. When it goes for the implementation, you will know that there are certain dependencies that come up from the product side. And if in case tweaking is required, then you can sit with the product guys, you can sit with the respective stakeholder and try to work around the solution. Otherwise, what will happen that you will be completely rely upon that counterparty to give you a solutions, and you may not have any clarity that what the dates that they are giving, that whether that date is the right date, because everybody will try to work on their own comfort, right? But if you have a good understanding, you can counter back that, boss, if you are trying to build in this particular configuration, or you're suggesting these changes in the product journey, it may not have that kind of the impact on the timelines, right? So that's where that you can counter. Then definitely some of these value creation drivers, it's very important, because ultimately, if you are not clear about this thing, definitely you may not value that program's timelines, right? Let's say, for example, if the business has planned that if it goes live, the first, as soon as it goes live, say, for example, any program has started in January, and by May that it has to go live, business may start factoring that by June, July, and August, that what kind of the numbers they may be making. If it's a loan, new product, that it's a credit card you're launching, you might be primarily need to be clear that, okay, by June that you will be doing 10 crore of business, right? By July, you will be doing the 30 crore of business. This is all the clarity. So then only you will have that sensitivity towards the timelines. Otherwise, you will keep on going, and from the May, it will become a September, and from the June to September, all the numbers projection which would have been done by the business will go away, right? So that's where the value creation drivers understanding is critical. Then again, very compliance and risk alignment. So every product, if you look at it, every platform product that you are trying to do and a digital implementation for that product rollout, you will have counter regulations. Like, so for example, if you're launching on a LOS, digital journeys for the customers, for the loan products or the credit card launching, then you need to be working very closely that what are the compliance challenges can be there. Because at the end, before go live, you need to have that follow the certain checklists. Let's say, for example, if you're doing an implementation with a partner, which is an outsource partner, now the outsourcing of technology services will come. Many of the things you should understand and try to adhere at the start of the program. Else, what will happen that by the time of the go live, somebody from the risk or the security team will raise a flag that you have not done the due diligence, you have not done the proper contracting. Contract has gotten certain of the points missing, right? So you, again, I'm saying that you may not need to be a completely expert, but you need to know that these aspects need to be touched upon, and to work on those aspects like due diligence or the agreement, you know that to whom that you need to work very closely and get their concurrence at the start itself, or as a part of the project that you are moving into that. And the last not the least, but the customer journey insights, the one side product knowledge, but the journey is also very clearly to know that. So be it on the credit card, and every project may not have the journey, like core banking system that if you're trying to implement, may not necessarily be, you need to bring in the customer journey because it's more on the back end working. But that time also you need to be clear that what are the customer journeys that from the front end, be it on the mobile banking or third party, has a dependency of core banking, and whether those APIs are going to available from the core banking or not, right? So that's where that you need to have a good understanding of the journeys, be it internal, be it on the third party, and also taking care of the privacy aspect, the grievances, how they're going to handle. So this is like where that product knowledge or the business knowledge is critical as you go on driving that any kind of the transformation program. So So you need to, and this definitely helps you to better study prioritization, plan the business value because you're clear about the timelines, the scoping. So you will be very sensitive toward all the investment that which has been done, better the adoption through that customer-centric design during the journeys that you have been doing that, right? Now let's talk about the technology. Again, this is very critical, right? As we spoke about that most of this transformation program will be tech driven or the digital driven, right? So unless until you have a decent understanding, you will rely heavily on the partners or the solution partner who are there, or the technology team that you are working with, or the CISO team that you may be working, and they will drive that certain things which you may not have clarity. They will come out with challenges. Let's say, for example, given a very simple that you are building a journeys for say credit card launch, and then you are also planned to partner with the fintechs for the customer acquisition. Now, say for example, you are trying to work through the APIs, that customer journeys that you want to initiate. Now there is a question will come that how the data security will be handled at the partner end, right? I'm picking an example. Then you will come back that, okay, technology team will say that, okay, what we can do that we can create an SDK. SDK can be integrated into the partners platforms, and then we can manage it. Now, who has developed the SDK? Nobody has clarity that is there SDK available. Then you need to go back to the drawing board again and work with the technology team and partner that how the SDK will how much time SDK will take, and then how much time the partner will take to the plugin of the SDK. This is an example that I'm taking. So these are the scenarios will come and throws upon you to retweak their timelines. But you need to be at least a good understanding to raise any questions. Like, so for example, if there are 4 APIs, how much SDK time it will take to build the SDK? Somebody will take 2 months. Why didn't they to have the 2 months of the times to build enough 4 APIs SDK and all? So these are the things that definitely it helps. And largely the architecture, because architecture is some understanding of the architecture, how the data communication and all this thing gonna happen, right? So it's based on the programs that you are doing, the implementation, some decent understanding, like so core banking. If you're doing the core banking migration, there are certain things that you need to be very clear, which has inherent part of the programs. Like, so for example, banking parameters documentation. Now, these are the things you have to anyway get it done, writing the requirements from all the different stakeholders. You may not have the skills to write those requirements, define the banking parameters, but you need to have some skills that which are the department that you need to connect, which are the product that you need to work with to get the business banking parameters documented, right? BPD part. Or the data migration. Most of this program will involve the data migration, how the field mappings are get done, right? These are the skills only can come when you have the decent understanding of the platforms, how the platforms constructs are there. What are the typical implementation aspects of that platforms comes into the picture? Like say LOS implementation, it will be largely the APIs, right? All the APIs integrations and lots of the workflows, right? And how the journeys you have defined. So how the LOS is going to take care of those journeys, right? So that's where some decent understanding of the systems landscapes adds a value to this. And then again, the cloud versus on-premise, all the scenarios will come, because if it's certain platforms that you are doing the cloud-based implementation and LMS is on the on-prem, then you need to factor that all the integration challenges between the cloud and on-prem. And you need to definitely discuss this with the CISO team, that this is a cloud vis-a-vis the on-premise, that integration that you are trying to do that. This is given, right? Whether you have the technology understanding or you have a product understanding or not, but definitely you need to have a decent understanding of the cybersecurity requirements or the data privacy requirement, because now as the DPDPA already in the on the way that we will be implementing soon, and we'll be making sure that compliance to DPDPA is there. So that's where that some good understanding of the encryption is required, because at the end, most of these programs within by BFSI require the CISO sign off, right? You have to go to the security, security team will try to get an application audit done, the VAPD done. And at that time, if you get some surprises in terms of the known vulnerabilities or the vulnerabilities for closure may take time, then definitely it's going to toss up your timelines, right? So this becomes very critical, good understanding of cybersecurity. And one of the things is easy trick is that as soon as the program gets started, go and speak to your CISO and and then try to list on all the security requirements that he may have. Try to give him the architecture walkthrough. And that's why primarily the practice that we follow whenever we are driving the program management. We'll sit with the CISO team, we'll sit with the risk team, we'll give them the walkthrough of the entire architecture, we'll walk them through the journeys, we'll walk them through the BRDs, and then tell them that very especially, please share that what are the security requirements that we need to take care of it, right? Then we'll parallelly sit with the compliance team. We will definitely have an understanding based on that kind of the programs that we are driving. These are the things will be applicable, be it on the KYC, be it on the your digital lending guidelines or outsourcing, and sit with the compliance team, get a very clear understanding that these are the requirements, these are the checklists that we need to follow. So that's where that you need to get a good understanding of the security, and it will not throw in surprises at the end of the programs, right? When you are ready to go live. And especially that now when you are working, most of the these programs will have lots of the dependency on the fintech and partners, right? Integrations. And these days, as the banks doing lots of the fintech partnership to drive some of the products, right? So if there also some understanding of the fintech, you definitely will not get a very deeper understanding, but some understanding, it will be helpful, right? How much time they are going to do the API, because typically fintech moves pretty fast on the integrations, right? So try to see that KPI documentation as soon as the journey closer has happened, because some of this program will have the customer acquisition initiated from the partner end, and then product servicing happening at the bank end. So journeys involvement will be there. So as soon as the journeys and the BRD journey has been closed, try to have an exchange of the APIs. Now at this stage, you need to have an understanding that what are the APIs will come. Technology team will say that, okay, these are the APIs are there. Is this the correct APIs? This is the right version of the APIs? Is that APIs have been already been signed up by the CISOs? Has there been any changes has happened? And then if you're getting taken a concurrence, then you share with the partners, put the partners that can you start the testing at the start rather than do the integration and then you try to do the testing, because then it can have some more surprises. So these are the definitely some of this understanding that as we are running the some of these programs may require. And again, I'm talking about that these are the large transformation programs. Some of this small implementation, like say, for example, if you are doing there's a small implementation of like say CKYC. Now that's also a large program, right? But definitely the whole skills, because it's primarily catered to a couple of functionality, right? I'm just picking an example. It may not be the right one, but try to differentiate between the large transformation program and a small transformation programs, right? So with that, I'll take a pause and we'll see in case if any questions are there, then happy to pick it up. Okay, so Rajiv, I've taken your feedback and I tried to slow down. Hope it was better. In case any questions, guys, please happy to pick it up. In case if you want to ask, or you can raise your hand and then we can ask questions. If not, again, we'll get started. Meanwhile, my team will put up in a feedback form into the chat box. You can give your feedback as the session proceeds. If you're not able to put in a question in Q&A, you can put the question in chat also. From there also, I can pick it up and then we can have discussions. Or if you want to ask the questions, please raise your hand. We'll enable the mic and then you can ask the questions. Prachi, we are asking, will the presentation be shared after the call? Primarily those who share the feedback, not to spam that others. If you are giving the feedback, the presentation will be available and will be sent to you. Or else, otherwise, the sessions YouTube recording also will be available in a day or two on our channels. Okay, so Sakshi has already given the feedback form. So we'll continue to start the discussions. Meanwhile, as soon as you get times, please share your feedback. Your feedbacks are definitely very valuable to us. So let's continue, touch upon the other aspects of the program management. Yes, I'm sure you can see the screen. Now, the core, right? Now coming to that, building on a right program management discipline, because ultimately now you may have a good business understanding and good technology, but if you fail on your program management skills or the disciplines, then also then you will have a challenge of meeting the timelines of the projects, or missing out certain quality elements, or missing out certain of the valuables aspects of the project as it goes live, right? So definitely, because lots of the things we have seen in the first slide itself, right? Why these programs are critical and why you need to have a strong program management, because again, multidisciplinary programs, it required a board and management continuous oversight. They continue to look at it. It's a direct impact to the business, customer impact. So this wise, this program need to have that very strong program management, and so that you can control that entire the scope, quality, timeline, and the cost of the projects, right? So what are the elements that it needs to have? Definitely, first thing first, you need to put up in a right governance framework, right? And right governance framework involves from the tier one level to the top tier, right? How the structure need to be built. So tier one, primarily that all the project teams who are there, from the partner, from the product, from the solution provider, from the fintech, and creating a kind of a structure of the daily hurdles or evening hurdles, which you primarily touch upon. Sorry. So having that huddle structure, sharing the daily updates, or say, or either through on the WhatsApp or the mails, whatever that works within the organization policy, right? Then definitely having a project management committee level, these are like typically unit heads with at the respective teams, be it on the product side, be it on the business side. And they are primarily the drivers to make sure that no decision gets hold up, no issues are stuck into the process, and they're able to provide the timely interventions, right? And then finally, that steering committees are primarily the sponsors who have sponsored that project to start. And typically, many of these transfer programs, the CEO will be the sponsors, right? The board is looking at the programs very closely. So CEO's level is steering committees there, because many of the decisions may require the top management guidance, right? Because let's say because of the certain complexity, change in the requirement, you have gotten a CR, a change request, which may have the cost implications, and where the management committee may not be in the stage to take a decision, that definitely steering committee takes a decision, right? Even the some of the things like certain scopes has come, the prioritization of activities, steering committee can take in a decisions, right? And based on the steering committee updates, then you can pass on to the board also, right? Because it's management level of the committees has already looked into the different aspects of the programs, and then it has been updated at the board level. Now, then making sure that all the stakeholders are aligned, and not only from the sign-up perspective, because in all these programs, you may be taking multiple sign-ups at the BRD stage, the journey stage, at the UAT stage, even the final go live stage, right? So make sure that the stakeholders are well aligned. You are interacting very closely during the requirement stage. In case if any requirements is changed from the some of the other unit intervention, like say, for example, risk, or the CISO team has intervened on the some of the changes which may impact your journey, then you definitely go back and align with the product team also, that because of the because of that security and the risk intervention, we need to add an additional screen in the customer interface. So you need to ensure that the secure product team is also aligned. So continuous iteration of the stakeholder alignment. And one of the best way to deal with this is that ensure that your morning hurdles of the programs involves that definitely all the stakeholders. Many of the stakeholders may not have that kind of a requirement on the daily hurdles, right? Because most of the things will be done between the product or the technologies or the fintech partners, depending on the program. Risk, CISO, and all this thing may not have done a regular intervention, but it's good to make sure that these guys are also participate in the regular intervention, so that everybody is on the updated on the same levels, right? Everybody is understanding that what is the progress, where are the open issues, what are the challenges are there, and so that collectively they can solve it. So stakeholder management, very critical. When you are interacting for the sign off, make sure that they get the complete picture of the programs, not only that their silos part of the programs, right? So please give them the briefing, and it helps you to get a confidence also from these stakeholders that you are giving a right update, you are giving in the full update, and it's become much better, right? And I think as we have transitioned on most of these digital transformation program from waterfall model to the sprint mechanism, right? even the mobile banking, leave aside the core banking and all this thing, because they can only go into the certain one way of the program implementation. But many of the fintech partnership or your channel, digital channels transformation, or say process engineering kind of the project can move into the sprint manner, right? So have a better agility to manage those sprint better, break down into projects, working very closely with all the stakeholders into a different sprints, more closely monitor the sprints, and in case certain stage that you feel that certain feature of one sprint has to move into the other sprint, don't hesitate, bring it to the project management committee, bring it to the steering committee, take their concurrence, move it to so that at least you are able to move on the projects pretty fast rather than holding up. Yes, what will happen, the two features may not go live in the sprint one, but at least your sprint one goes on the time unless until there is a criticality of that features that it needs to go on the sprint one. Like, say, for example, login. If a certain level of the changes that has to be done on the login stage, you can't avoid that. You can't move into the sprint two. So take a call. That's where that entire your technology understanding or the business understanding will come into the play. And now most of these programs require lots of the vendor and ecosystem coordinations. So you manage that ecosystem pretty well, define the RASI metrics that each of the activity, who will do what, who will be consulted, who will be informed. That's where that entire the vendor management is again becomes very critical to follow the programs, right? So this definitely, once you put up on a right program management skills powered with your business understanding and the tech understanding, do lots of the de-risking of the delivery, right? Put the confidence among the internal stakeholders, because you will be surprised that what kind of the questions can come from the which stakeholder you will never be able to plan, right? And at that moment, you need to have the complete clarity that each of the activities, each of the tracker items, at what stage they are into. And in case there are dependencies, you should be able to in position to update. You may not be every time a situation that you have a structure update you create and go to the steering committee on project. Anybody, any stakeholder come in the pathway and can ask you an updates, right? And if you are able to pass on that right update at the right time and take their guidance also. Why do we need to wait for the steering committee only to happen? Yes, CEO audience, you may not get it, but most of the other senior management, you can reach it pretty fast, and you can go and interact and take their guidance. It gives a lot of the confidence among the internal stakeholder. And in this situation, in case because of unforced scenarios, because these programs have an inherent nature to get delayed, right? You can't, it's a part of this program. So even because of unforeseen scenarios, if this program's getting delayed, at least nobody's going to raise a question on you. Definitely it will be raised a question or an overall project, but at least not because of your focus, right? And definitely better agility, complexities into actions, actionables, it helps, right? So how do you create value? So these are like typically try to, if we get deeper into that, creating a day structure of a program manager for a large kind of the programs, then some of the things like you definitely focus is then to get that in stakeholder trust. And as I was talking about that, if you are able to talk their language, right, rather than talking the jargons without having an understanding to the risk guys, to the compliance guys, they may not able to pass on their right knowledge. Like they will say that, okay, why don't you get someone else who can understand, right? So it helps you to build a stakeholder trust, right? Communicate in their language very clearly, do your homework, understand that these are the challenges of this compliance requirement on these projects. Putting in a strong governance, so do a daily huddles, do a program management meetings, do a steering committee meetings, sending an update at the regular intervals. So that has to be done. Not only about the status, but what are the open risks which you foresee that it can come in the projects at the later stage, which may have a challenge as we proceed, right? Or what are the open issues are there? That's also you need to have a good understanding that these are the 10 open issues, but don't only go with the open issues, but also have a clear solutions that you have worked out with all the stakeholders, and what are the stages of that issue closure, right? So you need to when working on a day-to-day basis, putting on a strong governance. And already I touched upon the rapid and informed issue resolution. Every day you will be working very closely to pick up each of the issues which have been identified as a part of the project, working with all the stakeholders in solving. you may not necessarily solve that issues, right? Because let's say, for example, if it's SDK versus SDK integration issues has come, or say, for example, network connectivity related issue has come, you will not be able to solve that, right? You are not supposed to solve that also, right? But how do you work with that each of the stakeholders and solve it? But, and in case if it's not getting solved, escalate, right? Escalation is a part of the day-to-day life of the program management, right? You can't say you I'm not saying that you are here to make a friends, right? But you are here to make that program go live, right? Go live as per the management expectation, as per the sponsor expectations, right? So if it required, then please raise an alarm, escalate, follow that entire the escalation matrix. And then also build a very clearly defined matrices for the reporting, because ultimately, like, what are the progress of each of the activities has progress in terms of the percentage that you'll try to define. Then in terms of the Gantt chart that you're trying to put it, the issues resolution, what are the open issues are there? What are the open versus closed risks are there? So those are the different KPIs that you try to bring on the table, and you may be able to use some of the tools, right? So you can use the tools. And the last not the least, there are many, but good forecasting capabilities, right? Try to foresee that issues which can come into the future, which can have an impact on your program. So try to do forecasting as much as possible, right? In case certain RWA regulation has changed, and it could be inherent part of the project that you may need to do forecasting, or the market intervention has changed, right? Let's say, for example, you are working many of the programs at this stage, which were primarily digital lending related, you were doing, and suddenly digital lending guidelines has come in between, right? May 2025, that new guidelines. Now, immediately you have to pick it and look at that, okay, all these guidelines, how it can impact my programs as we proceed. So able to do the forecastings in terms of the technologies dependencies, in terms of the product dependencies, in the resources allocation. Some of the resource may be going on the leave, right? And if it's like 1 year programs, definitely lots of the team members may be going on the leave, right? Many of the key stakeholders may be going on the leave. So you should be able to forecast those scenarios much in advance and able to retweak your programs in such a manner that it doesn't impact you, right? So these are the critical personas aspect of the program manager that you need to be very careful about it. Yes, we have our questions. I think Lakshmikant has raised hand, and Sakshi, if you can enable his mic. So what are the program personas? So
Hi.
that's
Yeah, my question was very simple. Like, when you were speaking, I could not clearly articulate what are the different personas that you are speaking about. I could understand the functionalities over there, but when you use the word persona, I really could not pinpoint on it. If you could just, make this a little crisp, if possible.
So good to see you, Lakshmikant, after a long time, right? So primarily when you talk about the personas, having skills on the product, having on the skills on the technologies, right? Having a one in the and primarily on the program management skills, right? That's where the personas, his good communication skills, right? That's where that primarily that he needs to possess about it, right? That's persona is a part of the persona itself. That
So you
your
mean to say they are
response.
like competencies, like for a program manager, the
Yes,
competencies, like
yes.
the word is what you are looking at is competencies.
Competencies, right? Personas
Got
primarily
it.
I'm trying to put on the competencies, right? I don't want to define into that, okay, he's an MBAs or the BTECs with a 10 years experience or the product.
Got
That's
that.
primarily on the
Got that.
context.
Got
Yeah,
it. Got it. Thank you so much.
right. Thanks. Any other question, guys? Any other question? And again, requesting you to share your feedback, because feedback always helps, be it on the refining our topics or presentations or the communications. Definitely it helps, adds value. And those who are able to give your feedback will try to send the deck to you on your registered email IDs that you have shared with us. So let's just couple of few more pointers that we want to touch upon. Yeah. So that's where I think most of the things we have already spoken about it. But if you try to look at it now, how the primarily the PMOs is approach is changing, be it on the internal PMO that you are trying to work upon, or you are trying to hire an external PMO. So primarily focus is on the cross-functional alignment, definitely compliance embedded planning. So when you're building a project plan, be very clear about all the compliance requirement, not only from the regulator perspective, but also from the organization, its own policies and procedures, the checklist that you need to plan, right? Good on the ecosystem management that you need to be doing, lots on the data-driven approach and continued approval improvements, right? So this is like, I think most of the things we have touched upon. And the last not least, these are like more success factors that for any programs that you need to make sure that you are continuously keeping in a track of it. So governance structures, never try to miss on this governance structure, like missing on the steering committee, right? Getting the decisions on the right time. So these are like governance structure, and governance is anyway, it's required to for any success, right? So that's where that focus very critically on the strategic governance structure. Proactive risk management, right? Continue to work very closely with all the stakeholders and continue to anticipate that what are the risks could be there, right? What are the challenges can come, and go back and continue to work on the risk register. Look at the impact. Does the risk has an impact on your schedule? Does the risk has an impact on the cost creep, or say, for example, it can be just a scope challenges, right? And then what are the mitigations? So maybe get an agreement of the CRs, like say, for example, any risk that you foresee which may have an impact on the cost, then try to get the decision as early as possible. So build a risk register, build a mitigation plan, and not only define the mitigation plan, but put up at the timelines and make sure that those risks are closed as per the time, right? Then, as I was talking about, as we have been moving into that from waterfall to the agility, right? Have a culture of the agility, work on the different sprint plannings, right? And enjoy the success also, right? Put up an integrated feedback loops with all the stakeholders to ensure that all your programs are moving in the right time. Context-rich reporting, so just not on numbers, the flag, but with a lots of the insights that what has worked well in the last updates, right? So, for example, what are the critical risk has been closed, what it could have happened because the risk has been closed, rather than just saying that 70% of the risk is closed. Right, that may not give the complete insights, but some of the open large risks which has been closed, which definitely gives a confidence to management that yes, programs is under the well control. So it need to be context rich reporting, just not on the flat KPIs. Have a good English embedded into that. And the SLA ownership across systems, make sure that SLAs across all the guys have been well taken care of it. So that's where that some of these three aspects that you need to make sure for the program success. So with this, we come to the end of the sessions. We do lots of the program management services. These are the principles that primarily what you're hearing from us in the knowledge session is all our expertise, that experience that we have learned during the process of running some large programs, working with a different set of the customers, and getting it that how to make it right any programs, and those learnings primarily we bring it on the knowledge sessions with you guys. So thank you all, and I think we'll just open for questions again. Paramdeep has raised a question hand. Maybe Sakshi, if you can enable his hand, and then we can talk. Paramdeep.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Shashank. I actually put the question, in your experience, besides MS Project, what are the softwares that worked well for monitoring the kind of complex transformation and integration projects that you spoke of?
So I think probably I've not used much. MS Project definitely has been much easier. I think Zoho also has some project much easier. But these days also, since you lose lots of the project in sprints manner, then some of this Asana and all these things become much easier to use. These are again good platforms to manage your task and the schedules. So these are the next gen tools, and you can do lots of the plugins with the mails, and also Asana or Jira. These are also the good tools, especially to run your sprint-based projects.
Okay, I thought Jira was a little bit more development focused, but thanks. I was looking more around, multiple integration.
So that's where the Zoho and all. Zoho also has a decent program project management. Zoho has, I think, as compared to that when we were using MS Project, I think at that time it has issued to contain the number of tasks, right? While the MS Project typically doesn't have that limitations. Zoho is one of the programs that can be used.
Thanks, Shashank.
Yeah. Any other question, guys? But please feel free to share your feedback. Vinesh Shekhar is asking question that how program manager make use of AI. And I think few of the things, this is interesting questions, right? These days, if you look at it, mm, transcripts, like when you're doing the meetings and you can generate the transcript, at least it saves you time to do the recording. You can focus on the discussion and let that recording gets generate the transcript with the insights and actionable. So that's where that one of the easiest good use case of, and which primarily helps the program manager to save lots of the times, right? Otherwise, some of this AI can be used into the task tracking kind of things. So that's where that I feel my understanding is that can be used at this is from the program management perspective. So thank you, guys. Thank you. I hope you have given the feedback. We'll get back to you with the deck. And thanks for attending and look forward. Keep tuned to our LinkedIn channels, newsletters for updates on the upcoming knowledge sessions that we keep on doing every week, right? Picking up the topic from the different dimensions within the bank and by BFSI segments. So thank you again. Look forward to see you again. It is actually we are closing the session.